The crickets outside Emily Parker's suburban home chirped in a steady rhythm, their chorus carried by a soft summer breeze drifting through slightly opened windows. It was midnight, and everything about the house suggested stillness. The hallway was dark, the kitchen quiet, and the neighborhood tucked into its nightly rest. Inside her room, Emily was half asleep, curled beneath a quilt that her late husband's mother had given them as a wedding gift years ago. Emily was 42 years old, with chestnut hair that brushed just past her shoulders and the kind of gentle face that always seemed to listen before she spoke. She had always been a light sleeper, her senses tuned sharply to every creak in the walls or shift in the wind. That night was no different. She stirred as if something unseen had nudged her awake. She opened her eyes, unsure what had woken her. Then, she heard it, soft, hesitant, almost fragile. "Emily." It was whispered, just outside her bedroom door. Her heart skipped. At first, she thought she had imagined it, that it was some thread of dream tugging at her. But then it came again, a little clearer this time. "Emily." Her pulse quickened. She sat up, clicked on the bedside lamp, and pulled her robe tighter around her. Slowly, she swung her legs over the edge of the bed and walked to the door. Her bare feet made no sound against the carpet. When she opened it, the warm glow of the lamp spilled into the hallway. There he was. Ethan. Her 17-year-old stepson stood barefoot, his sandy blonde hair rumpled from sleep, his eyes wide and unsettled. His posture was uncertain, one hand hanging at his side, the other gripping the doorframe as though for balance. He looked smaller than usual, like the little boy he once had been, though he now stood nearly as tall as she did. "Ethan." Emily's voice softened as concern rose inside her. "What's wrong?" He shifted his weight, eyes lowering. His voice came out thin, trembling. I had a nightmare. I didn't know who else to go to." The sharp rush of adrenaline in Emily's chest eased into something gentler. She nodded slowly, stepped aside, and gestured him in. He entered quietly, almost like he was afraid to disturb something. He sat on the edge of her bed, his hands twisting together. Emily sat beside him, tilting her head in quiet encouragement. "Do you want to tell me about it?" Ethan hesitated, then began to speak in halting fragments. He described being alone in the house, calling out for his dad, calling out for her, but no one answered. He described wandering from room to room, lights flickering, shadows stretching, the weight of emptiness pressing down on him until he woke up in a panic. As he spoke, Emily felt a swell of compassion. It had been 2 years since her husband Ethan's father had passed away after a sudden illness. The loss had cut through their family like a storm, leaving behind silence that was often too heavy to bear. Emily had worked hard to hold things together, keeping the house in order, paying bills, attending school meetings, but she knew grief didn't follow tidy schedules. "Ethan," she whispered, placing her hand gently over his. "I know it feels real, but nightmares can't hurt you. And you're not alone. You never will be." His eyes flicked to hers. There was something raw in them, fear, yes, but also a longing for reassurance that only trust could bridge. They sat in quiet for a while, and Emily stayed with him until his breathing steadied. He returned to his room, and she returned to hers, but the moment lingered in her mind long after she drifted back into uneasy sleep. That whisper at midnight, his voice saying her name, wasn't just about a bad dream. It was a call for comfort, a signal of something deeper he hadn't known how to express. Over the following weeks, those midnight visits happened again. Sometimes it was after a nightmare, sometimes just a quiet knock on her door. They would sit, not always speaking much. Emily learned quickly that Ethan wasn't looking for solutions, he was looking for presence. For someone to listen, for someone who wouldn't dismiss his fears as childish or his silence as indifference. One night, he arrived not trembling but thoughtful, holding a small spiral notebook in his hand. He sat on the bed and pressed it into Emily's hands. "I've been writing," he mumbled, almost embarrassed. "It's poems. I don't show them to anyone. But I don't know. I thought maybe you'd understand." Emily flipped through the pages carefully. The handwriting was messy, slanting, but the words struck her deeply. They were about loss, about searching for something invisible, about shadows that stretched too long and mornings that felt too heavy. But woven into them was also hope, a quiet thread that showed Ethan still believed in light even in darkness. Her throat tightened as she looked at him. Ethan, these are beautiful. Honest. They sound like the pieces of your heart on paper. He shrugged, but a faint smile tugged at his lips. It's the only way I can talk to Dad sometimes. Like if I write it, he'll hear it, wherever he is. Emily blinked back tears. She reached for his hand, squeezed it firmly. I think he would be proud. And you should be proud too. That night was a turning point. From then on, Ethan didn't just whisper for comfort, he came with questions. About life, about choices, about how Emily managed when she was his age. She told him about her awkward high school years, about being terrified of college applications, about feeling invisible until she found her own voice. Do you ever stop being scared? He asked her once. No, Emily answered honestly, with a smile. You just learn to walk with the fear until it doesn't hold you back anymore. Months passed, and with Emily's gentle encouragement, Ethan grew more confident. She suggested, gently, that he might join the school's creative writing club. At first, he resisted. The idea of sharing his words out loud felt too vulnerable. But eventually, curiosity won. He joined quietly, attending meetings, listening more than speaking at first. By spring, something remarkable happened. Ethan signed up to read one of his poems at the school's literary night. Emily remembered the moment he told her, his voice trying to sound casual, though his eyes betrayed his nerves. I'm going to read, just one. Don't make a big deal out of it, okay? Emily smiled but made no promises. The night of the event, she sat in the front row of the auditorium, her hands clasped in her lap, her heart racing as if she were the one about to go on stage. When Ethan stepped up to the microphone, the room hushed. He unfolded a small sheet of paper, cleared his throat, and began. His voice was shaky at first, but as he read, it grew steadier, fuller. His words painted pictures of absence and presence, of silence and memory, of learning how to breathe again after loss. By the time he finished, the audience broke into warm applause. Emily clapped until her hands stung, her eyes wet with pride. Ethan caught her gaze briefly, and for a moment, he smiled, not the shy, hesitant smile she had grown used to, but something brighter, freer. That night, on the way home, he said softly, I don't think I would have done that without you. Emily glanced at him, her heart full. You did it because it was already in you. I just reminded you. The midnight whispers eventually faded, replaced by conversations at the dinner table, laughter during weekend hikes, and the quiet companionship of two people who had learned how to be family not through titles or roles, but through